All right, welcome into the Los Angeles Lakers Report by Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr. Lakers needed a win tonight in Phoenix against the Suns to even up this series at 1 apiece, and they got it. 109-102 the final, and this series now goes back to Los Angeles at the Staples Center, and we'll see if the Lakers are able to ride this momentum at home in front of a crowd in downtown LA. A lot of big performances that we have to hit on from the Lake Show. Anthony Davis was sensational. We'll expand on him in just a bit, but 34 points, 10 rebounds, 7 dimes for him. Dennis Schroeder was also great. A great energetic presence for the Lake Show. 24 points, 3 rebounds, 8 of 16 shooting. And LeBron James does what LeBron James does. 23 points, and he hit a huge 3 late that kind of put the dagger into the Phoenix Suns to decide this game. On the Suns side, Deandre Ayton, 22 points, Devin Booker, 31. Cam Payne was really good and continues to impress. He had 19 points, and Chris Paul, will get to him in just a bit. That shoulder injury is continuing to be very troublesome. As for LeBron James, 36 years old, father time, it's not catching up to him just yet. And he was good in Game 1. I thought he was even better and more efficient in Game 2, especially right from the get-go. He knew that he needed to send a shot toward Phoenix and let them know the king was here. And he was able to establish some momentum early, 23 points, and just made some really big plays to kind of gather momentum from the tip, but also at the end of the game, when this game got really close between the Suns and the Lakers, LeBron was just a leader out there. 9 assists. I loved his creation ability and his ability to come through in the clutch. Speaking of clutch bucket getters, that is Devin Booker. This guy has to be one of the best scorers across the NBA, an absolute walking bucket. 31 points tonight, a perfect 17 of 17 from the free throw line. I'm not sure the Lakers are going to be able to put the clamps on him and defend him throughout this series. He's going to continue to go off, but that's okay if the Lakers display defensive prowess like they did against some of the other guys. That defensive prowess led by Anthony Davis, who responded to his own criticism from Game 1. He said clearly, flat out after that horrible Game 1 performance, we're not going to win this series if I continue to play like this. And after Game 2, in his post-game interview, he said, I was, quote, terrible in Game 1. Well, in Game 2, he played like somebody had disrespected his mama. 34 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, and he was massive down the stretch. He had 24 points in the second half, and he showed everybody why he is a generational talent. On some nights, yes, he might look disinterested, but on a night like tonight, Anthony Davis played like his hair was on fire and showed why he is considered to be one of the most talented players across the NBA. Dominant. My one-word reaction to Anthony Davis's performance, and much needed for the Lakers because they needed him to come through with a big performance. Speaking of performances, grade the Lakers' performance on the road against the Suns in a hostile environment, coming through with the win tonight. Grade it A, B, C, D, or F. Get your votes in the comment section down below. For me, it's a flat-out A. LeBron showed up. Anthony Davis showed up. But other than those two guys, the Lakers needed other dudes to step up, and you got those performances from cats like Dennis Schroeder and Andre Drummond. I want to touch real quick on Dennis Schroeder. Since being out from those COVID protocols for around 10 to 14 days, he was a little sluggish when he made his way back. You saw his explosiveness be a big element and a big deciding factor in this game tonight. I thought Dennis Schroeder at times bailed the Lakers out offensively. Late in the shot clock, really throughout the game, 24 points. Dennis Schroeder was fantastic. So too was Andre Drummond. And Lakers fans know that the Andre Drummond experience has been all over the place. They were really excited about him when they brought him in after he was bought out by the Cleveland Cavaliers. You saw why Lakers fans were excited about the addition, because they needed a big presence down low to combat Deandre Ayton, and Andre Drummond provided that. 15 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 steals. So Lakers across the board for me were impressive. And in the playoffs, you can't just rely on LeBron and AD night in and night out to carry you. You need to have a well-rounded lineup, both offensively and defensively. Dennis Schroeder on both sides was very active. Andre Drummond was also very active as well, especially defensively and on the glass. He also had 2 steals. So that's the all-around game that I think Lakers fans were expecting on a more consistent basis. Game 3 matchup going back to the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Series tied 1-1. You got to love it, right? I mean, I think this series is going to go the distance, all 7 games. These are 2 evenly matched teams, 2 teams with star-studded talent, but also very deep. So I want to pose this question for you all. Who do you have in Game 3? Type LAL for the Los Angeles Lakers if they can continue to ride this momentum back home, or do you have the Phoenix Suns? Type PHX if you think the Suns are going to be victorious in Game 3 and take a 2-1 lead. Coming up, we're going to break down and look further into this Game 3 matchup between the Lake Show and the Suns. But first, have you subscribed to the Lakers Report? If you haven't, what are you doing? Best Lakers coverage on YouTube right here, the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. We're going to continue to cover this team all playoffs long. And when the free agency frenzy is happening, we have you updates with all of the latest news and rumors. So hit that big red button down below or go to youtube.com/LakersTV and subscribe to the Lakers Report. We're north of 35,000 subscribers, We're going to continue to grow. Let's preview Game 3 between the Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Lakers. Series tied up at 1 apiece. Suns got the Lakers in Game 1. Lakers return the favor against Phoenix in Game 2. Now, Game 1 matchup, look, I think the Lakers just looked a little tired after the NBA play-in game on Wednesday where they really had to draw that game out down the wire against the Golden State Warriors. LeBron James with the clutch 3 to win that game 103-100. Devin Booker, he got his in Game 1, 34 points. He's going to get his the rest of the series. This guy is virtually unguardable. He was just as good in Game 2 as he was in Game 1, 31 points tonight. But the big focus is Chris Paul and that injury, which we'll get to here in just a little bit. This is what I will say. If Anthony Davis can play like he did in Game 2, where he came through with a masterful performance, 34 points, 24 of them in the second half, I think the Lakers are in a great spot. I'm confident about the Lakers going into Game 3. Let me know how you're feeling. Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 being I'm not confident at all because I've seen a lot of flash from the Suns. Rate it 10 if you are very confident in the Lakers going into this game in Los Angeles. Let's talk about my keys to Game 3 if the Lakers are going to be victorious. Anthony Davis, I just talked about. He's going to have to play in Game 3 and the rest of the series and the rest of the playoffs if the Lakers want to win back-to-back Larry OBs like he did in Game 2. He called himself out after Game 1 and said, I was terrible. We're not going to win this series if I play like I did tonight. What does he do? Responds to himself and a lot of detractors out there who have said, Anthony Davis is not a top 10 player. Well, get out of here with that. Because in Game 2, Anthony Davis showed why he is a generational player and one of the best front court players that we've ever seen in the history of the NBA. No doubt, he is certainly one of the most gifted. Dennis Schroeder, he is also a huge key for the Lakers in this series, and that includes Game 3. Dennis Schroeder in Game 2 brought a spark. He was certainly explosive. His first step when he was getting defended, either if he was trying to create separation for a jump shot or get to the cup, really stood out to me. And Dennis Schroeder, for him to come through with 24 points, 3 rebounds, 8 of 16 from the floor, he was efficient, he was explosive, and Dennis Schroeder is going to need to play like he did in Game 2 in Game 3 because the Lakers are such a dangerous team when they have a well-rounded roster and approach. Speaking of that, I want to touch on Andre Drummond because his experience, his time with the Lakers has been so up and down. Some people have been clamoring for Marc Gasol to get minutes. There were times when Drummond and Anthony Davis were on the floor together, and I think that's a preview as to what the Lakers want to go with because AD's natural position is the 4. And if you can plug in Andre Drummond, at the 5, he gives you energy, He gives you a rebounding presence. He's also pretty good offensively, too. I think it makes that Lakers lineup versatile, and they can go with a different type of style as well. Lastly, Chris Paul's injury. Something major to monitor here. It's that shoulder injury that he suffered in Game 1, which I think could be problematic for the Phoenix Suns the rest of the series. He didn't look right in Game 1 after that injury, and he certainly didn't look right in Game 2. He didn't play for the majority of the third quarter, and throughout this entire game, Chris Paul only took 5 shots. You can make the argument he was the most valuable player to his team during the 2020-2021 season. The Phoenix Suns really need him. And if he's on the floor only chucking up 5 shots and is limited to the capacity in which he was limited in Game 1 and Game 2, that spells major trouble for the Phoenix Suns. They can't just rely on Devin Booker to get 30-plus points every night. They need Chris Paul to play like the MVP level that he played at this entire season. That is something to monitor heading into Game 3. So the series shifts back to Los Angeles, Staples Center. Couple thousand people going to be on hand. There were a lot of fans in Phoenix for this game. The crowd, the atmosphere, not going to be like that because California state restrictions a little bit different, a little bit more stringent with Corona, but still going to be a live atmosphere with this series locked up 1 apiece between the Lakers and the Suns.